right. Can you hear me? Good, good. Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to try to talk a little bit about how three.js came to be, and some kind of things around it, some things that I'm working on, and kind of to see where it's going a little bit. And some new things that I managed to make like this week just for this presentation. So to start, in my case, I started with all these in 2006. In 2006, a friend of mine sent me an ActionScript 2 Flash source code with something like that. It was just 8 circles moving around that kind of made the impression that it was a cube. But back then, I didn't really have much experience. I didn't know. He didn't send me the code. He had experience doing 3D graphics, but I didn't know how to deal with it. But I wanted to understand it. So it was a bunch of sinus and cosinus kind of code, of, a really simple 3D engine. So I had the source code and I started hacking it a little bit, and I was like, wait, but I know a little bit I know how to draw lines and stuff. So what about maybe I can just add lines between the points, and then I'm gonna have a wireframe cube, and that's what I did. And then we're like, wow, I'm starting to control this 3D engine kind of thing. I'm starting to understand a little bit of it. So that was just pretty much an afternoon. And then okay, now I'm gonna try to instead of just having lines, I'm gonna do a rectangle or across every point. And then I just have a cube, solid cube, but it's hard to see because all the sides are the same color. So I'm gonna try change the side color so I can kind of see a little bit like a solid, different color kind of cube. And then I got this. And that was a little bit disappointing because this is supposed to be 3D, this is what I was doing, what I was aiming for, but there is something going on, I don't know what's going on, this is frustrating. And then after a while, thinking about what was going on, oh, okay, so, I'm supposed to sort all the faces when I'm drawing them. So the ones that are closer, I'm sure drawing them first, and then the other ones. And then is when I said this was probably the first of the many problems that you had to deal with in 3D graphics. And then we were okay, I just had to do that. Okay, it just took me probably half an hour again and deal with all this stuff. But finally, I have a cube, and I was starting to get excited. But still, I didn't know any of the math. I didn't know any of the code or anything of how it was going on. After I spent some time with it, I managed to get something like this. Or the previous one was actually fake. I did it with 3, but this one, because I cannot find the source for the other ones. But this is what I managed to get. It was kind of exciting. It was a bit slow, but yeah, you can see that it was some sort of 3D-ness and some flat shading light, and it was starting to work. But it will take probably a year from one to the other one. It usually takes a lot of time to understand all these things. I rely on internet on some of the things. I don't know if the internet is very good here, but we'll see. So when I managed to get that geometry kind of working, I just at that point, a video should be playing now, but I used at that point Paper Vision 3D appear for Flash. And what Paper Vision 3D managed to do was pretty much this, was managed to find a way to also add textures to each triangle. We're not really drawing pixels, so we had to do everything from scratch. So they managed to find a way to using the API from ActionScript 3 to draw triangles and put a texture on it. So I played a little bit with it, and back then there were no lighting or anything like that. It was just only textures. It was slow. Flash was pretty slow back then, and there was no way to everything seemed pretty flat. But I had because of my background using 3D Studio Max and modeling, I knew that I could do the something like this and bake the illumination in 3D Studio Max. So I will put a light, and in 3D Studio Max I could bake the illumination into the texture itself. So now when I started experimenting with this, and now all the Flash people were wow, now Paper Vision 3D has lights. No, not really. It doesn't really have lights. It's fake, but it looks pretty good. That's what it matters. That you need to fake it. As long as it looks good, it doesn't matter how much you fake it. then I started playing a little bit more like with that. I did some other experiments with it, like this particle effect with kind of trying to simulate like a depth of field. So like the particles that are like, or the spheres that are closer to the camera has some sort of blur, and the ones that are back also some sort of blur. But I was kind of playing a little bit with the API that they were doing, or like the pre-production 3D on itself. And same thing with this one, like I just found a way like to somehow distort the background with the geometry itself. But it was like very simple stuff. Like I was just like dealing with whatever they were providing me. At that point, I had spent like many years working with Windows, and I was starting to get a bit annoyed with like the workflow of it. Like at some point, like all the updates and all the Windows stuff, I got really annoyed with it. I then tried like OS X, and also I had like I got annoyed with it because I lost some files for some designs of like the way it works OS X. And then I got at some point like, I'm gonna try this Linux thing, and I moved to Linux. But the problem was that I was working on a company that was doing Flash websites. So I had to find a way to use Linux and produce Flash when not like Adobe was not really like supporting this path. Like I had to find a way to somehow do that. So in the end, I ended up using Eclipse and FTT and this Flex SDK thing to just be able to compile Flash websites. And it wasn't really like a nice workflow. And it got to the point that it was very annoying because not only because this workflow, but also like dealing with Adobe itself, like the whole 3D was a little bit slow, or like they were a bit slow on like pushing the platform. So you will kind of depend, you will wait for them to like implement things, and I didn't like that situation. So then HTML5 happened, and HTML5 meant pretty much like freedom from Adobe. Like now, like Chrome or like Firefox after it, JavaScript was running pretty fast on those browsers, and they had like this Canvas API that pretty much allowed you to do whatever like you could do with the Flash itself. And also, like to me, like I was allowed to use a gedit, which is just like something like Notepad on Windows, but like I could just like modify that, like use that program, not having to compile and reload, and then it was working. So it's not like the IDE is fixing my code, or like I didn't even have like color coding or anything like that at some point. I think I was just getting stuff done pretty quickly. So like the first thing that I did was this mix of like trying, like in this thing, it's just like creating one canvas element for every circle, and then it's just in Box2D to run the whole simulation. And it was like the reason I got to do this thing is because I was putting experiments on my website, and Google approached me to see if I was interested in doing an experiment for them when Chrome was going to be released. So they wanted to showcase what Chrome was able to do. So this is like the first one I did, and then I did this other one, which got fairly famous at some point. And I don't know if the internet is going to work, but I'm going to try. Oh, it works, kind of. Thank you. So that was, I had this experiment running on Flash for like many months, but when they kind of approached me, I didn't even know that you could like back then you couldn't really rotate elements. Like now it's normal. Now you have the translate and the transform, and it's fine. But back then we're like, I can do something like that, and Box2D seems to be fine, but I don't think the rotation, I don't think we can really rotate. But then I just found out that you could rotate, and then we just did it, and it turned out to be pretty successful, I think. But the problem was that I was pretty much, like, we didn't have anything. It was like just working with a very, very basic, like you didn't have like I had to develop all those libraries to be able to do stuff. Like there was no like widget or anything to see if your application was running fast or anything like that. So I developed this start.js. Then with Solid, we developed twin.js, and other ones that was kind of helpful for like whatever I was needing. And at the same time, I also started this three.js library, which is it was pretty much taking what I had in Flash, but like moving it to JavaScript. So that was 4 years later. So I started playing with the cube in 2006, and I put this first version on 2010 on GitHub. It was also like a good timing because I think GitHub was starting to grow at that point. So at that point, you had to decide whether you're going to use Google Code or like other ones, and then at this point, somehow I just choose GitHub, and the whole community thing helped a lot. I put this up, and actually it wasn't to a point that Nick said yesterday. Like when I put this up, I wasn't like not very proud of the code, or I wasn't even sure of the code. The API was starting to look good to me, but the code itself was not even like correct. Like some people, after I put that up, like some people like fixed like the matrices works on the quaternions and all that. Well, I don't think we had quaternions back then. They fixed the matrix, all the math basically, and I was like, oh, thanks. Like now it's working for everyone, so and also for me. So at that point, we just pretty much had also this cube. But again, like this is not like WebGL or anything like that. Like back then there was no WebGL, it was just the canvas element. And we even had like I managed to have like, again, like the flat shading, it's gonna take a while, yeah, flat shading, some lights. It was fairly performant. It's a bit slow on OS X, but it was okay. And I think I jumped another one. Oh, this is very slow. I'm gonna try. So all these, well, now it's gonna take a while. All this work was, I kind of started developing the engine, and the first time that we got to actually use it was on this Wilderness Downtown website. That it was a website that we also did for Google for like promoting HTML5, because back then, like there was this HTML5 versus Flash thing, and people needed to have like some examples of what HTML5 could really do. So we did this kind of music video with Arcade Fire at that time. That you will put your address, and the whole like music video will use your maps. I wish I could show it, but I don't think the internet is going to allow me. You will use the music video will use your address, and it will make like a character run across your area, and it was pretty like somehow nostalgic. Especially like if you put like the area that you grew up, and then you will see the guy just running, oh, it's going that street and that other street. So for this website, for this project, like we mainly use three.js, and on the birds that we should be seeing on the background there. I'm gonna try to reload again. Yeah, there was like one effect that was just some birds effects, I'm not gonna remember the name now, but it's like a simulation of birds like flocking effect. And those birds will use pretty much like 3 polygons each. But if you put them like far away, like and kind of like flapping a little bit, it looks like pretty realistic. But it was just, for HTML5 and Canvas, it was doable because it was just 3 polygons each bird. And it looked pretty good. Let's see, I don't think it's gonna load. Anyway, so we did that music video, and then some months later, we had the battle with WebGL and Stage 3D. Stage 3D is pretty much WebGL, but for Flash. So it's the same bindings for OpenGL, but only one. But it's just like whenever you're using Flash, you can access to OpenGL in that way. The problem with that was, again, I think that's the only video I rely for. The problem with that was that Adobe has a ton of money for marketing, so. It's gonna look okay. So Adobe, this was a technology for Adobe, and they obviously have a lot of budget and a lot of they really want this technology to win. So they spend quite a bit of money on marketing to like show what the Stage 3D was able to do, and like they had like many like teams like doing like this kind of demos. I think this was one of the most like impressive ones, like with all the reflections and everything. But the problem was, like people will see that, and they will also like, oh, you can have this card, you can have those reflections and everything. But whenever you will go and see what WebGL was able to do, then that's what you get. And the interesting thing is, you know what's going on. You know that both things are OpenGL, the same thing. So but people don't know that. People say with WebGL, yeah, like it just looks like you can only have a cube that's spinning very slowly. But with the other thing, you can have this amazing car with those reflections, and I'm sure like all those cars were reflecting each other. I'm sure. So again, we needed to have. It was a kind of a tricky situation because if no one had done anything, because this technology was pretty much like all the browsers were supporting it, but the guys behind the technology is Kronos, which is like more like a kind of consortium, kind of a team, kind of define how the API looks like, but they don't have budgets for like doing marketing. So someone likely Mozilla and Google, they spend some money on like doing marketing to like defend this technology. Otherwise, if that wouldn't have happened, we probably will be still using Flash for any 3D on the web. So luckily, this Alter Equalia guy started contributing a lot to the WebGLRenderer. Like we didn't have any WebGL stuff yet on three.js, but he started like sending making this WebGLRenderer try to get parity with the other renderers, with the canvas renderer, and to the point that he just matched it, and then he can continue adding improvements to it, and he spent almost a year just making it work pretty well. And so in some months, we finally had we didn't have, again, no one was really paying us for doing this, but we managed to have this example that, again, people will say but why is the car floating? But it's kind of showing that at least you can have a car with reflections. And many cars and yada yada. But again, it's the same. It's OpenGL at the end of the day. It's just a matter of presentation, and that's kind of the trick. So we had a demo like this. We also had we ended up having this. We had some shadows, and we kind of were implementing what OpenGL allows you to do slowly. And we get to the point that we were doing pretty decent demos, that to the point that people will start to see this WebGL thing, you can do pretty amazing things with it. So again, this isn't going to load. But with Google, we did yet another music video to promote the technology. And in this time, we partnered with, I don't remember the artist, sadly. But it was like a music video, real-time music video, showing what a WebGL could be, and really showing an experience that it will kind of make thing excite developers, basically. So it was this ROM website. So it was I don't know if we can, no, it's not gonna be fast enough. It was also a 3 minutes video. We were combining video with a 3D scenes. At some points they were interactive, some of the parts that were not interactive. And at the end of the video, there was a part that you could fly around at will and change worlds, and if there was even a tool for building some sort of Minecraft-looking objects that you will place on this desert area. So it was maybe not as successful as the Arcade Fire one, the Wilderness Downtown, for mainstream. But I think for developers, it was a pretty good example, what the technology was allowing you to do and what websites could look like if you had some money to do all this. We were I think we were about 100 people behind this music video, doing many things, doing filming and directing and many things. And as I was saying before, to me that this was great because all the stuff that I had learned until this point, I finally could apply it to something. So even during the development of this music video, we had some situations that we had this 3D engine that it will run the whole experience, but how are we gonna author the worlds? How we can do the modeling in some software, but how do we compose all those worlds that then we can just export to our engine and things like that? And people are at that point were very used to Unity 3D. But in my case, I was a guy using Linux, so in my machine, Unity 3D didn't run, And I was like, no, I'm not gonna install OS X. And also, or like Windows. And if we manage to like create a pipeline that uses open source software, is like really showing like, finally we have a chance to show that you can do websites with open source, without really having to pay for like a license. Like now, if we, like we had spent like at least the last 10 years like paying or cracking or downloading illegally like Adobe software because we wanted to do a website, or like we still do it with Photoshop probably. But like now we had a chance to like create like, no, you can do a website like this, but without relying on like proprietary software. So luckily I was screaming loud enough so they listened to me, and we're still doing that. We managed to do that, and the pipeline kind of showed that. And we still like, to say the truth, we still like use some modeling. Like, I think we still use Maya maybe for doing some modeling, but as long as the composition of the scenes were like done in like some open source software, it was good to me. So 4 years later, or 3 years later, this is what like three.js is like. This is how it is today. Like we still develop the whole thing on GitHub. There's no official team. Like I've seen like many groups trying to like many open source libraries that are developed by teams, and there is a lot of like expectations from one another, or even like trying to like have a bigger say than the other one, or like a lot of disputes basically. So far the model is working well this way. I'm just the one like just doing what I think is right, and then until someone tells me like no, this is the wrong way, and then they manage to convince me, and we change things. But sometimes like even like with people that contribute a lot, we have like some discussions, and it gets to the point that I really need to go to the point like no, I think we're gonna go this way, because I really suspect that if we go this way, we're going to have less problems. Like we're going to have to help less people, and it's going to be more intuitive. There's still like some fighting, but I think it's less fighting than not whenever you have a team. There's no mailing list, and there's no roadmap, no JS docs, and we still don't even have a logo. It's a little bit like unorthodox kind of development, but I think it's working okay. And compared to other like libraries, we're driven by the projects that we're developing, or also we are like developing depending on what the community needs. So some people will say like, well, I'm doing this software, and like I need this feature. Can we add this thing? So it's more like, it's not like we're gonna be like, no, this is not on the roadmap. We're not gonna have it yet. Like, we're gonna try to implement it so you can use it. So it's been like 4 years now. This is the amount of, I think there's like about 400 contributors. And this is the list of all of them. Bit them enough. And they've been using the library for like many different type of projects, like games, mostly starting to be like what Flash websites used to be, some sort of. But like they even like Google used it for a Google Doodle, and like even Microsoft used it for the photosynth, the new technology of the photosynth for the presentation on the website. And yeah, like they've been like, it's mainly like they also like build like software, online software, but mainly like games and like kind of experiences online. The code nowadays looks like this. I guess I should show a little bit more code here, but okay. So yeah, like the code is pretty similar how it was more or less when I put it online the first time. Like it took me about 4 years to get like to abstract the whole thing to something like this. It's a little bit similar to paper vision, but with some changes. But yeah, like so first you need to create like every scene has a camera, and every scene like you need to like have like a scene that kind of it's a container for how the whole thing is gonna look like. You put the objects and the lights, everything there, and whenever you need to create geometry and material for every mesh, or you can have lines or like many other variations, and then you need to have a renderer at the end of it, that's what you add to the DOM. So all this is not really nothing at all HTML. Like what we're doing at the end is just like one canvas on the page. But this is like the minimum thing. Like with this code, you can have a cube rendering on the screen. Actually, probably you should move the camera back because you are inside the cube. And this is all the renderers that we have right now. This is the first one I started with, which is the canvas renderer, which only uses the canvas API. And This one was kind of the second one that at some points, like there was like the canvas wasn't working fast enough on iOS. So I tried to do like an SVG render. So in this case, what this is doing is like drawing like an SVG, like removing all the nodes, and every frame is just adding all the nodes again, like just every triangle is one node on the SVG. And it works pretty fast to some degree. We also have a CSS 3D render. And a CSS 3D is like, it's basically using, like it's just HTML, and every object is like it's a plane, it's a div. So it's this new technology that, kind of technology that allows you to rotate all your like div elements on your HTML page. And the nice thing of this is that you can style them, because whenever you are doing something like on canvases, you only have a texture, or like whenever you're doing something WebGL, you only have a texture. But here you can, all these like overing things and like all the glow and everything, you're just defining it on CSS. So this is pretty useful for like, you want to do like a UI for games or something like that. It's much more easier to do something like this because you already have the picking, the browser is giving you the picking of the objects. And then there is also this software renderer, which software renderer means that we're drawing, it's still using Canvas 2D, but we're drawing all those triangles pixel by pixel, which is how 3D used to be done like 20 years ago. And we're just trying to like rescue some of those algorithms and like bringing it back to, like intentionally, like the idea at the beginning was to try to get something decently working on iOS. But it was developing this render is very difficult, and we are at the point that now it doesn't matter because iOS is finally implementing WebGL on the next version. We also like build a ray tracer, which is a ray tracer is pretty slow, but it's like it gets like pretty nice results. It's more like what the kind of renders that you have in 3D Studio Max and Maya, like a software like that. And doing something like this is actually super easy to do. Like you're just, as soon as you understand how to throw rays and how to bounce rays, you can just code something like this in like an afternoon. And it was actually like pretty fun to do. But it's not like really that very useful. We also have an ASCII renderer, if you ever need it for anything, which is kind of a fake. It's actually just Canvas 2D with a pass on top of it. And of course, we have like the WebGL renderer, which is like the one that most, like the people is using the most. And yeah, the one that is like more appropriate for these times. And we also have this WebGL defer renderer. WebGL defer renderer is more like maybe the renderers in like in the next years are gonna be like, that you do like different passes with different like things like the albedo or like diffuse normals and the depth. And then you compose all like how everything looks on the shader itself. And it allows you to have like, in this case, like the demo is that you can have like many lights. Like with the WebGL renderer, you can have like maybe like, you know, whenever you start to have like 4 lights, it starts to get pretty slow. But in this one, we can have like 100 lights and it still like runs pretty fast. But it's kind of waiting for WebGL 2, which may land maybe next year, to actually be like super efficient. This is still a little bit too hacky. And some of the things that we, like the people have been like working on, like there's a ton of people like kind of building tools so people can, or like code that people don't have to write anymore. So in this case, this guy like just brought a mirror kind of object. So if you ever need to have like a mirror on your scene, you only have like, now you only have to like import this code from that you guys did and do like new mirror, and then it's going to be there, and then now you have a mirror for free. There is also like someone like used that code as a base and made the distortion, so now we can have like kind of see. You can see all the, hopefully, yeah. The demos are not amazing. We should like maybe like try to get more like, maybe we should put a boat there instead. But this was easy to do. There is also a sky shader, which is a little bit hard to control, but like this is kind of like emulating how physically like light works. So this is just like the outside of it. Like probably it's going to work better if we put that in the sea scene. But yeah, like this, with this code now you can have like, you have any scene, you can just put this thing like around it and it just works, and you can just change the day of time and it looks like as it's supposed to do. Here are more things. Now we have this, a guy was working on what's called decals or splatter. So now you can, decals actually. So you can shoot things at your models and it looks like it's supposed to look like. There's some bug somewhere, but apparently when the guy was developing this, he was only using white color, and then his girlfriend found that out, and he was like, "Why are you doing here?" And he didn't realize like what he was doing. Like, "Oh, no, it's not what it looks like." And so we just changed the color to just just avoid that. There's also this one, the same guy, Spite, this which is kind of a hacky kind of reflection kind of code, which what it's actually doing is just like rendering, like just doing one render of the whole, like of all the sides of the scene, and it's just using what's called like a cube map. But the difference in this case is like he's distorting, depending on your position, he's distorting the cube map, so it looks like, so you move to the right and you move to the left, and the reflection always looks correct. Which, if you were not distorting that reflection, it will be like offset all the time. It's also pretty cheap. But it mainly works only for like rooms, like square rooms, and it's kind of that difficult. It's only for very specific things. As a pro tip, something that I found out so far is that like I see like many people developing libraries, and I see many people like developing like APIs and things like that, but they don't really use it that much. So they don't realize what could be better or what could be like improved. And sometimes I had some times myself that I didn't work with the library for a while, and things were not like improving too much. But whenever you got to use it, like, oh, it would be much easier to, if I did this thing, like, oh, like probably we need to change this, other people don't know how to do it. So I've been trying to use a little bit my own library to do some more experimentation, so like more like what things, like more features or like more advanced features of how they could look like, because this is pretty much endless. Like I think I'm going to spend even more, like 4 more years developing all this stuff. But like now there is these, let's see if I can go there. So last Christmas, I did this experiment, which it was just an excuse to play with what's called like a floating point textures. So what's happening is like you're doing all those particles calculations. Like this is obviously happening in real time. Like if I stop, the particles were actually listening to the music, but like I can still continue, and then they're gonna continue. They're gonna continue like moving. But this is all the calculations. All those particles are actually the calculations are done on the GPU. It's not really done on the CPU. JavaScript is not doing anything. It's just you can store every position of the particles in a texture. So like RGB is going to be like, and it's a floating point texture, so it's not like you only have like 0 to 255. You have like a big range of number. So like every color you're saving the XY set instead of RGB. And then you read that on the GPU, and then you move everything, and you keep kind of moving things. And you end up like having like, I don't know, I think I have like maybe like 1 million particles here. But this is something that is not very easy to do. Like you really need to like code in like what's called like GLSL and know what you're doing. So I'm still like experimenting with these things to see how I can abstract it in a way that is easy for people to play with. Yet another thing, I think it was last month, at Google they were like working on this Google Cardboard. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, which is also known as Oculus Rift, which is, it's like a pun of obviously the Oculus Rift, which pretty much what you have to do is just you have to render your 3D scene into your mobile, and then you put that mobile into the Cardboard thing, and now you have like a virtual reality headset, and I think it costs something like maybe like $10, something like that. I don't think they're selling it, but I think you can still buy it from some other people. So for that, I did we were doing like some Chrome experiments to show what kind of things you could do with it. So I did this thing, and I cannot connect the cardboard now, but I can fake it. So from here it should be, oh, it's not really working. Wow, that's interesting. Oh, anyway. Yeah, that's not helpful either. Well, if you put the headset, like the camera is going to be moving around and following your orientation. So you can the thing is going to be more forward, but you can look to the side all the time. So for this thing, I played with 3D audio data of the web audio API. So I was adding some 3D positions, like there is some fanfares that are like this way, and these other fanfares that are this other way, and I put a sound coming out of them. But it really depends on where you are around, and you are listening to the right or to the left. It's probably obviously pretty hard to listen. Yeah, like web audio API is even dealing with what's called I think the Doppler effect. So if you're approaching something that is making sound, it's going to sound quicker, and then if you go back because the wave takes longer to reach you, the music seems to be slower. So I developed this thing, and I realized that probably having audio, dealing with this audio connection, Web Audio API 1.3 was a little bit tricky. So when I was developing this thing, I realized that probably it will be easier to have some nodes in 3 directly to you want to have audio. You can just have I want to have a new audio 3D object, and it's going to be in this position, and you just start your application and everything is working as it should. So I found that out. But I still haven't implemented. Hopefully, next month, it's going to be there. Another thing I've been working for, maybe this one is 2 years. I started working on this editor. At the beginning, it looked something like that. The idea was to have this 3D scene that you can move the objects, and I don't know if you can see all these is generating the code on the side of how it should look like. So it was more to show, to show people to show developers how one thing translates to the other thing, so they can understand how the API looks much better. But then I realized that at that time, I realized that we were really creating a lot of toys for developers when we were not really doing tools for designers. And many designers were with this HTML5 is cool, and they were I'm glad that you developers are having fun, but I cannot do with Flash. I will just have Flash and I'll just do whatever, and then it will just run. So I realized about that, and I realized that there were not too many people, not even Adobe or any other company was doing really serious efforts on making tools for designers. Sorry. So I slowly started developing this editor more for them. So the usual example of this, let's see if I can load this. The tool is more for them to so they can preview how the object is gonna look like. Let's see, I think it's this one. Nope, this one. Is this gonna work? Yep. So they can just drag the file, the obj. They can have obj files or Collada file. Have some lights. They have all the material properties. It's also very interesting to see how the UI kind of reflects what the API looks like. So there are many times that I see something on the UI here, yeah, that's probably should change the API so it looks, the naming or something looks a bit better. Then we have the color, put here, there. I think, wait, maybe this should be Fong, which now doesn't look very realistic, but there is this specular map. Here. With this. Oh, actually, this is fine. It's just this should be less. Something the speckle is kind of like how much it shines. But with this texture, kind of like makes it so it looks, there are some parts that are more reflective than other ones. And then there is also, I think it was, I always forget, maybe it was the bump one. Which, so now like the designer can just like compose this here, and still this doesn't look too good. Something like this, okay. And maybe a little bit of red. Right here. Yeah, that's better. And less shiny that I made. Yeah. So this is running, obviously this is running three.js, so they can like compose this, and they can preview how it's gonna look like before they send that to the developer. And to send them to the, oops, this is not what I wanted to click. To send them, they can just like export the whole scene, and this is, right now it's just like a bunch of numbers that they just need to copy. Ideally, at some point, I need to figure out how to like save it in a better way. Like I need to implement like some sort of like zipping, so it zips the geometry and the textures and use downloads, and then you can just play with it, and just it's ready to go. But right now, I'm like it's just like working this way. Still taking a while. So at the beginning, like it was used for that. I still haven't really seen many people using it. I really haven't done many tutorials on how it works either. But I've been using it myself. I've been working on this game for like about 2 years now. I think it's this one. So I'm using it myself like to design the game level. So I just compose all those objects, and I have like some extra properties. I think it was like this one, for instance. Here, I don't know if you can see much. Yeah. So you can like have like a JSON attached to each object. So in this case, my game, whenever I run this scene, it's going to read that this is a dynamic object. So it's going to use box2d, and it's going to make it dynamic. So I can push that object. If I just leave it as static, it's an object that I'm not going to take care about. Hopefully this game is going to be done like maybe like in 1 month or something like that, and I'll be able to finally show it. But for me, like it was as an excuse to like keep improving the tool, the editor itself. Something that I kind of realized about maybe 1 week ago, something like that. Well, actually a while, like maybe 1 month ago, is that probably is going to be very useful if that tool also like supported some sort of a scripting, which seems to be like what other tools are based. So for this conference, I wanted to try to get something working, which actually it was very interesting. This is going to try to reload the other one. It was very interesting to try to develop this thing, because I had it in my mind for a month, and I was like, I'm going to implement it this way, implement it this other way, and then days were passing by and I didn't get to implement it. So I just found myself on this Monday and like thinking like, oh, I need to implement this thing somehow for like Thursday. And because of the not having that much time, like somehow that helps me to like find simpler solutions. And like, I only have like 3 days, so maybe I can just actually, why didn't I thought doing like this like 1 month ago? So it turns out to be like pretty easy to implement. And for instance, we can just have this cube here, and also this light. And now we have this play button here, so we can kind of preview how it looks. And here we have this script panel that we can, is this big enough? Let's see. We can do this rotation. This is obviously like three.js API ++. So like every frame, like this script is going to be executed every frame. So now we should feel like a crazy fast spinning cube, hopefully. If I wrote something wrong. Oh wait, I'm putting the code in the lights. Yep. Maybe here. That was interesting. That could be fun. Oh, come on. Oh, why it's, no. Mystery. This is my own tool, I'm sorry. Yay, okay. So now you have it less, then you can actually never try what happens if you do this. Yeah, I need to experiment with this thing, like it seems pretty powerful. Oh, I guess I had to stop it and then play again. So yeah, so you can play with all the things. So let's say you have access to like the scene from here, but you can also have like access to like most of JavaScript stuff. So you can do this. Well, this is like getting, well, we can just do like the usual date now. And then time. We sure got the same still, okay. But now we have some better value, so we can apply that. E. You can do stuff like this. And what's interesting is that it's saved per object. So you can just clone the object and have many of those, and everything kind of looks, you start to see kind of the potential of how fast you're like dealing with this stuff. You can also like include, you want to like make it, so all are different, every object has an ID. So here we can like add it. I don't know if this is all going to work. Maybe show like click here first. So hopefully now they're going to like jump, but at different pace. Like, yeah. So you have some level of like control of like itself and other ones, and you can even like go to the scene directly. And this is like all rotations and position is kind of silly, but yeah, it shows some potential. And maybe this is not going to work. Oh, actually, I can just, from here, I can traverse all of the objects inside. So, and at some point, I'm going to add, like, obviously, code mirror or some, like, decent code editor here. It's not going to be like this. Let's say, yeah. So like from outside, for like the whole scene, I'm applying this code to all of the objects, and then each object also has its own like object. So yeah, this is kind of like a new thing, and I'm gonna try to like see what things can be done. Like probably it's gonna be something that we need to have like on update method and on click and things like that. So it's going to be more useful. Like right now, this is only on update, but it will be nice if you could just have like a on click, load this website or whatever, and then like we deal with the rest. It should be fairly easy. I just mentioned this. Then there's also this other one that I've been working for like also like for 2 years or so. Has anyone seen this thing before? This kind of timeline. Okay, so it's at some point maybe they will merge like the editor and this timeline one. I need to still find what is the logic, but for now I have it separate because it's easier for me to understand. So as a demonstration of this one, I did this thing that now that we don't need it doesn't need internet, it should work hopefully. So sadly, I only had like 2 days to do this. But the whole thing is real time and is using WebGL. And you can like, this is the editor that I was building for it. So you can, for instance, like at any point you can remove the cleaning of the colors, so then everything like leaves kind of a trail. Like experiment with it, or like for instance, everything should be at some point like being able to be changed like in real time. So here, for instance, we can change the text, put that back. So instead of that, I think is this subject. Oh, I don't know why this is not working. You know. We can change any text at any point, or we can even like change the cameras at any point. So from here, like change like where it starts or where it ends. It's still like not very easy to like play with all this stuff. Like I'm still working on the UI, and I was starting to implement also curves. So all this flashing thing, like every like bit that we see the flashlight is actually using this curve on the back. So we can just apply like curves to anything. At some point we'll be able to apply like, if I can move this. Anyway. And from some, also they have some tricks that we used to do, like we needed to, like whenever we need to synchronize something in time, like it's very nice that you can use like slow down things. So for instance here, the audio tag allows you to like make the playback slower. So we can put it to 0.5 instead of 1. And with that, you can really like, otherwise it's very difficult to synchronize things and really know if everything is working or not. And still working on this thing, you can also like use sport, and also it gives you like an array of numbers if it works. But yeah, so all this stuff started with all those 8 circles that a friend of mine sent me some time ago, and we'll see where it goes. I'm still enjoying my time on this, and that's about it. Thanks very much. Also, everything is open source. You can download everything from there, and you can hack. I've seen people like modifying this music video and doing like very funny versions of it. You can, the code is there. You feel free.
I have no idea what to say. I mean it. I don't think I've ever seen something like that, dude. That was totally awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Would you like to answer some questions?
If there are any questions, yeah, I'll be happy to.
Alguém tem pergunta? Pelo amor de Deus, perguntem tudo. Isso foi muito surreal, cara.
Thank you for the talk. I think you're a little crazy, because, man, like you solve your what you need, and start to study programming. You did that, So my question is, this is CPU processed or GPU processed? And this allow graphic hardware accelerator?
Yeah, like pretty much everything you're seeing is like done on the GPU, like on the computer, on the graphics card, on the video card. We're still like trying to move more things to the video card, like because JavaScript is fast, but not. JavaScript kind of moved the particles from the previous experiment. But yeah, like all this WebGL stuff is running on the GPU, which is, yeah.
Quem mais tem pergunta? Sério? The one here said, we can't ask anything. Everybody's in shocked, you know, like there was a shock for everybody. Ninguém mesmo tem pergunta? Sério? O cara tá aqui e ninguém vai perguntar nada para ele. Putz, mas aí vocês me acabam comigo, né? Acaba com o gordo aí também. Vou até vir para cá. Quem? Espera aí que eu chego aí, calma. Que foi, cara? Eu vou lá ouvir, eu não precisa gritar. Calma, a gente tem tempo. Pergunta?
That's a long question.
Okay, I was trying to understand that.
Okay.
That was complex. Amazon is using, he asked that. Amazon is using a product called Emazi or something like that. It makes uses of 3D and canvas and stuff like that. And he would like to know if your job has some influences over that tool or that use, and if you are aware of that tool or something like that.
I think what he means is that the fact that Amazon is using GPUs for compute power. So I don't know who he's asking. I don't know if he's agreeing. I don't see.
He's agreeing.
Oh,
is this guy?
I think he's behind someone. I don't see his. Anyway, but no, it has. You know, it's all this stuff is GPU stuff. It's like graphics processing unit stuff. Computer graphics. Graphics cards are like very, very fast compared to CPUs. Like a CPU had like, I don't know, 8 cores, and a graphics card had like 1,000, maybe like 2,000 cores. So they do like things like in parallel, like very quickly. And like Amazon is probably using that for like computing things, so like computing numbers, but it's not really like graphics. It's just they're overusing what the architecture is for. They're overusing the graphics card, but it's not like 3D. It's not like, it's not like visual.
Mais alguém tem pergunta? Ali. Ah, agora todo mundo vai. Ixi, Maria, todo mundo vai perguntar agora. Isso é bom.
Just a curiosity. Did you know Alan Zakai?
Say that again?
Of MScripting, the guy that is constructing for Unity.
Yeah, I met him. But yeah, the
question. A pergunta é só se ele conhece?
My question was because he is making much things for the WebGL, so you maybe try working with him or not.
Oh, right. Well, maybe what you mean is the whole thing of like using a worker for WebGL, which is something that he did some weeks ago. But also like the whole. So he did that thing, but also he's working on Scriptum itself, which is going to be useful and it's going to be like pretty good for the web. But at the same time, we're going to end up with like having blobs of code that we cannot read and we cannot learn from. So yeah, it's an interesting situation. Hopefully, with all this stuff, we have like alternatives to like write code that you can still read instead of like doing C, stuff. But yeah, like I still want to try the thing that he did of running WebGL inside a web worker that runs faster. I want to try that at some point.
Hi. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's amazing. I'm thinking in a simple question. How much time per day you work on that?
Well, the thing is, at some point I had to work on like not this stuff kind of work, like a web design kind of thing, and then do these things like at home. So then at that time, like I wouldn't sleep too much. But then you get to a point that what you're doing at home, like someone pays you to do what you're doing on your spare time. And now I'm doing this all the time. Like this is what I do full time. So yeah, like, I mean, like GitHub, like spending time on GitHub is like something that you do all the time, like on weekends, like to see if there is anyone like having an issue or like a pull request, something like that. But I don't know, depends. Probably like more than 8 hours, but there's no one counting.
Hi there.
Hi.
You can do pretty heavy stuff with that, and I see every day the web taking space, and everything that you used to do at the desktop and something like that, you are today doing using web.
Mm-hmm.
So do you see this kind of stuff someday in the future replacing some software like 3D Max and stuff like that?
Yeah, like it's already happening. Like there is at least one company called like Clara.io that they have like some sort of like 3D Cinema Max, but instead of like rendering, like so they use WebGL for like previewing. They actually use like three.js underneath, but they use it's running on the browser, but they use like V-Ray in a server. So the user is like just modeling something, and then whenever they press render, instead of using the computer machine, they're using a server, and then the server is like streaming the video or streaming the render. So it's just you have a like full like super powerful like 3D Cinema Max running in your browser, and it's even faster because you're using more cores than your machine has. You can use like a Chromebook, and you can still like render like a super fast pace because that server has like many cores and it's just streaming stuff. So it's slowly happening. Like like I am slowly like using less and less native applications. I still use GIMP, and that's about it.
Thank you.
Última pergunta. Mentira, vai ter mais duas.
Hello.
Hi.
So basically, I see a lot of stuff around WebGL, and I will ask you, what do you think about Accesible.js?
No, I think it's Accesible.js was very useful for pushing JavaScript up even a bit more. Like at the beginning, like Chrome was like pretty fast, like V8 was very fast. Then like Firefox like keep like following it, and then they came up with this kind of hack that it was pretty smart. And now they are like faster whenever you are using that kind of like code. And now like Chrome is also like trying to like V8 is trying to like re-architecture the stuff so it also works as fast. So I think it's going to be pretty useful on like to play games. It's going to be also very useful because there are like many games that they will be able to port directly because like they usually like, I think actually I was talking with someone on Mozilla that they were saying that they already ported like SDL. So there are like many games written in SDL, like all the Steam games that are porting to Linux nowadays, they are just porting into SDL, so they can just port it to the web. So all those games that you're playing on Steam, you will be able to play them from the web directly because it's Accesible.js. But again, like we need to be careful, otherwise we're going to end up with just a blob of text that we cannot read anymore. But I think it's amazing for the web.
First of all, thank you very much for coming to Brazil and sharing your work with us.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
And I was very curious about the development model you have shown. There's no roadmaps, just working freely with the community. Can you please explain the ideology behind this model?
It's a funny ideology. It's pretty much like I'm just doing something like that I think is right. And if someone has a better way of doing things, they can always fork my repository and do their own way. But there is no like a team or anything like that. I'm just doing my own things, and there is many people like there's as I was saying, there's like 400 people that have contributed to the project already, and there are like about like 2 or 3 that are also like every day like working and like improving things. And like I talk to them like whenever I want to do any change on the API, I check with them like, do you think this is right or this is not? Like, if I have doubts, I check with them. But yeah, it works. It seems to work. Like, but this is something that you can do with thanks to GitHub. You cannot really do something like that before because GitHub and the issue section and like all the dialogue that you create there. The problem you can get with that model though is that like many people, the situation right now is that I'm not Adobe, so if I'm developing these things that people are using as if they were just using Flash, but if someone has any problems with it, they're gonna come to me and they're gonna tweet me like, I had this problem with this. Why is this cube not spinning? Like, I cannot I'm just one guy. I cannot offer consumer service, but and it got to a point that they were using the issue section, and they were I would go every morning, and every morning were like 20 questions that they had to respond, and that couldn't scale. So at some point I started sending all those people to Stack Overflow, because Stack Overflow is more like a community for questions and answers, and there is there's extra stuff to it. You can get points, and out of those points you're gonna get jobs and things like that. So it seemed better to just send those people whenever someone is asking a question for help. I just send them there, and there's other people replying questions there, and it kind of works pretty well. So far it's scaling, which is my main problem at this point. But yeah, it's working pretty well. I've seen it in other repositories also, on other projects working.
Pessoal, eu acho que o mínimo que a gente pode fazer agora é aplaudir de novo ele. E eu vou aplaudir em pé, inclusive.
Just wanna say one thing.